Thank you, Gia. We're about 4 minutes past the hour now, so we will get started. Welcome to the January meeting of the Boston Region MPO Community Advisory Council. Um, this is our first meeting since our November meeting because in lieu of the December meeting, the Community Advisory Council members were invited to the MPO annual meeting. So it's the first time in a little while that we've been together in this setting. We have a pretty full agenda. So I'm going to pass it off to Gia to do our pre-meeting notices.
Thank you, Sean. Hi, everybody. My name is Gia Hong, and I'm the Public Engagement Coordinator at the Boston Region MPO. I'm going to take us through a couple of notices. First, I will read our notice of non-discrimination. You are invited to participate in our transportation planning process, regardless of your race, color, national origin, including limited English proficiency, religion, creed, gender, ancestry, ethnicity, disability, age, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, veteran status, or background. You can read the full notice of your rights protections at www.bostonmpo.org /MPO_NON_DISCRIMATION. Next slide, please. Next, I'll read our accessibility statement. This meeting is accessible to people with disabilities. Zoom products are compliant with exceptions with the following standards: Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.1 Level AA standards and revised Section 508 standards. If you require any additional accommodations in order to participate fully in this meeting, or if you have any technical difficulties, please contact me, Gia Hong, MPO staff at jhuang@ctps.org or at 857-702-3654 or via the chat box. Next slide, please. Sorry, next slide, please. And for our guide, can I get one slide back? And for our guidelines, sorry about this, everyone. And for our guidelines, all participants will join the meeting with muted microphones. Please rename yourself to include your first name, last name, and affiliation. Participants may mute and unmute themselves. Always remain muted unless actively speaking. To participate in the discussion, please select the raise hand function. You can find this by clicking either the participants button at the bottom of the screen, and a window will pop up with a raise hand button at the bottom, or the reactions button in the toolbar. The chair will then call on participants. Please raise your hand via Zoom if you would like to use an AI note taker during this meeting. And if you're on your phone, you can use the *9 to raise your hand. Thank you. And next slide. With that, I'll walk us through our introductions and roll call. So first, we have 495 Metro West Partnership.
Present, Jason Palich for the 495 Metro West Partnership.
Hello. Thank you. A Better City.
Hi, Better City, Scott Mullen and Amir Wilson today. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Thank you. Abundant Housing, Mass.
Hi, this is Jesse Canton Benenoff, Abundant Housing. I'm in transit right now. We'll be at my computer shortly, so I apologize, but I am here.
No worries. Thank you. Bike to the Sea.
Pat Bibbins, president of the Bike to the Sea. I'm filling in for our executive director, Jonah Chiorenza, today.
Good to see you. Thank you. City of Chelsea.
Sarah Hahn here, present.
Hi, Sarah. Codman Square Neighborhood Development Corporation.
Hi, Jacinda Espenche, present.
Thank you. Conservation Law Foundation.
Paulina Muratori, present.
Hello, thank you. Livable Streets Alliance.
Hi, this is Maha from Livable Streets Alliance.
Thank you. Hello. Healthy Aging Collaborative.
Hi, James Fuccione from the Healthy Aging Collaborative. Thanks very much.
Hello, thank you. Mass Bike.
Hey there, this is Galen Mook, and I think we also have Alexis Hosea Abbott from MassBike.
Good to see you both. Mystic River Watershed Association.
Hi, this is Carl Alexander, Mystic River Watershed Association.
Thank you. Mystic Valley Elder Services.
Hi, Meg von Lossitzer from Mystic Valley.
Thank you. PRC.
Hi, this is Angie Craddock from the PRC.
Transportation for Massachusetts.
Hi, Reggie Ramos for T4MA. Pete Wilson is also on the call.
Thank you both. Town Green. Oh wait, they sent an email up here. Town of Natick. Transit Matters.
Here, Caitlin Allen Colley for Transit Matters. I believe we also have Will Palmer.
Thank you both. Watertown TMA.
Hi, Sophia Gallimore, Watertown TMA.
Thank you so much. That wraps up our roll call, so I'll pass it back to Sean.
Thank you, Gia. First on the agenda, well, not first, but the first, non-notice, non-roll call item is the chair's report. So I will hand it over to Caitlin Allen Connolly from Transit Matters.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Gia. Happy New Year, everyone. Since our last meeting, Carl and I have attended several MPO meetings, including the MPO annual meeting, where we were grateful for the opportunity to provide remarks. So thank you all so much. I'm going to provide some key takeaways from the recent meetings, just as background, and then a couple points on what we're going to do today. So some key takeaways, and I thank Carl for helping to pull this together from the recent meetings that we've attended. Obviously, the first would be the MPO annual meeting, which was held on December 12th of last year. And this meeting featured a keynote address by the MBTA GM and interim MassDOT Secretary Phil Eng, and there was also a panel discussion on the regional interagency partnerships. The new TIP readiness guidelines have been adopted for the federal fiscal year 2027 to 31 development. And these are data-driven milestones, which the changes that would have been adopted ranging from pre 25% design to final design, and they're really intended to help improve budgeting, reduce deficits, and increase the MPO's ability to fund new projects. We also had a presentation on a roadway pricing study at a recent UPWP meeting, which studied a hypothetical $15 cordon charge for downtown Boston. And the findings were very interesting. They suggested a 31% reduction in daily vehicle miles traveled and daily vehicle hours of delay reduction by 43% within the zone, and an estimated annual revenue of approximately $585 million. The report also emphasized the need for that while a pricing system could reduce our regional emissions, obviously must be paired with transit improvements and targeted mitigations to ensure that low-income populations do not have a disproportionate share of trips to the area and are not fully unfairly burdened. And we would be interested in furthering a discussion on this topic within this group and to help identify our perspectives, which may help to inform such a sensitive and impactful topic. I think, as you know, because we had a presentation here, there was a Blue Bikes and Transit Connectivity report, and those key findings showed that ridership spikes near complete streets infrastructure and is currently most common between transit stations and places of work or education. And then finally, in terms of the UPWP, that programming continues to reflect a wide range of activities, including the Transportation Impact Mitigation Program, which evaluates how natural hazards and climate change affect regional infrastructure vulnerability, which is a very important thing. And Carl and I are available if anyone wants further information about these. I know it's kind of like tiny little bullet points, but happy to discuss them further. You have our emails. We're happy to answer any questions. Obviously, today we're looking forward to hearing from a number of the CAC members today regarding their organization's priorities and initiatives, and we have 2 members of the MPO staff who are with us who are going to talk about the Boston Region MPO's freight and active transportation programs and work they're planning for federal fiscal years 2026-2027. So thanks for your attention, and back to you, Sean and Gio.
Thanks, Caitlin. So next, we will move on to an opportunity for public comment. Are there any members of the public who would like to make a comment right now? Okay, seeing no activity via the hands being raised or the chat. If there is a member of the public who would like to make a comment, you can raise your hand throughout the meeting and we'll try to call on you. So next, we will move on to the approval of the October and November meeting minutes. Ideally, we would do this in one vote just for the sake of time, but if anyone has any objections to that, we can do 2 separate votes. Do any Community Advisory Council members have any comments, questions, or corrections to the October or November meeting minutes that they'd like to raise? Okay, seeing none, can I please get a motion and a second to approve the October and November meeting minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Jason.
Second.
Thank you. All right, Gia, can you call the roll?
Yes. Starting with 495 Metro West Partnership,
Aye.
A Better City.
Aye.
Thank you. Abundant Housing,
Aye.
Land of the Sea.
Aye.
Thank you. City of Chelsea. Aye. Codman Square Neighborhood Development Corporation.
Aye.
Conservation Law Foundation.
Aye.
Livable Streets Alliance.
Aye.
Healthy Aging Collaborative.
Aye.
Mass Bike.
Aye.
Mystic River Watershed Association.
Aye.
Mystic Valley Elder Services.
Aye.
The PRC.
Aye.
Transportation for Massachusetts.
Aye.
Thank you. Town Green. Town of Natick. Transit Matters.
Aye.
Watertown TMA.
Aye.
Thank you. Back to you, Sean.
Thank you, Gia. So our next item is the Members Sharing Initiative. This is an initiative that we started, I believe, at the November meeting, in which it's a space for members to share a project or initiative that they've recently completed or are working on, for the awareness of the group, for feedback, and to get different perspectives on from the members of the Advisory Council. Today we have the Livable Streets Alliance, the City of Chelsea, and Mystic Valley Elder Services. There will be a few minutes for discussion after each speaker. Maha, would you be able to start us off?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm sure you already know who we are, but as a tiny blurb of Livable Streets, we're a small mission-driven nonprofit. We work at the intersection of transit, community engagement, greenways, and environmental justice. And we've been focusing a lot on like road safety, multimodal streets. And the two projects that I would like to talk about in the few minutes that I have is so there's 2 things that we're very excited about working on. One of them is a project, I'm sure some of you are familiar with our Street Ambassadors program, where we hire and train community members to lead outreach in their own neighborhoods. This program is about like meeting people where they are and just to build like a sense of civic engagement in people and get like real voices uplifted in transportation decisions. So right now we are training a new cohort of street ambassadors. And essentially what we're doing is giving them a basic understanding of what transportation equity looks like, and then giving them essentially the tools to be more active in their communities and also just to train them in how to approach people. And this cohort will be helping us talk to seniors in Medford during, I think, end of Jan through February and March. And the idea is that we are engaging older residents who essentially take public transportation and have like some reservations around the bus network redesign rollout. And this is mostly for Medford area. So the idea is not only to inform them about the upcoming like rollout, but also to understand like what are some of their reservations. And it's like essentially prepping them for what's to come and also to understand their like issues and concerns. And the second project that I would love to quickly talk about is that we are collaborating with the Harvard Undergraduate Urban Planning Studies Lab. And through this partnership, what we're doing is we're looking at we have a series of greenways that we care about and we advocate for, which comes under our work for Emerald Necklace. We call the Greenways Emerald Network. If anyone wants to know more about any of these things, they can reach out to me. I'm just trying to fit everything in 4 or 5 minutes. So anyway, so this group is going to help us analyze the Emerald Network and our connected greenways, and also overlay on-street biking with the greenways map. The idea is to essentially see where is the gap between our biking network, and also to highlight like EJ communities. This is something that we've been thinking about for many years. Like we have like a greenways map, and that's something that we've been like advocating for many years, but we haven't had a chance to overlay it with on-street biking and see where we can make like seamless connections and where are our biggest gaps, especially considering certain communities don't have access to either the greenways or on-street biking. So these are the two projects that we're currently like working on, excited about. If anyone has any questions, thoughts, feedback, or wants to be a thought partner or collaborate, feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you, Maha. Yeah, I know Livable Streets is, as do all of the organizations on the advisory council, are do a lot. So it's a lot to cover in a couple of minutes. But does anyone have any questions or follow-ups or want to discuss any of the items? Go ahead, James.
Just a comment to Maha. Thank you for doing that. And if I could be helpful in the older adult related project, please let me know.
And then I know that there's a lot of the organizations on staff are involved in work around the Emerald Network. So I'm sure that there are entire coalitions around that that we don't need to replicate here. But I just wonder if anyone else wants to share anything else relevant, if their organization's doing any work with those greenways, or that could be like a possible thread of conversation here.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is Carl Alexander from Mystic River Watershed Association. Just to your exact point, we do coalesce as regional greenways groups on a pretty regular basis, both in terms of communications around advocacy actions or opportunities to plug gaps in design, strategic planning. So if anyone is interested in that, yeah, it's a great topic of conversation that we dive into on a fairly regular basis.
Galen?
Thanks. And thanks, Maha, for trying to cram Livable Streets' whole catalog. Obviously, it's a big field of work you guys are into. Specifically in the Greenways, MassBike is eager to work with Livable Streets and kind of all the Greenways Coalition. So we think statewide, so beyond just the Boston MPO region, but there's a lot of overlap of issues and concerns that we're hearing from friends of groups. And now that we're getting interconnected trails, what we're going to see are this network that spreads even beyond MPO regions. So we're very excited about that the experience that you've had at Livable Streets, building out the Emerald Greenways network and Emerald Network, to kind of use some of those examples that we can share with, the Ashwiltacook and Western Mass or the Cape Cod Rail Trail, et cetera. And we're working with my team here, who's Alexis, who's on this as well, to kind of build out an etiquette toolkit that's going to be hopefully helpful for friends of groups to help manage the expanded usage of these trails. And specifically, we are focusing on the micromobility concerns of not just e-bikes, but the scooters and all the other devices that are going to be popping up as well. So we look forward to kind of partnering with almost literally everybody who's on this group, but to help share best practices and report back of what they're hearing of incidents and situations on the ground. Again, with trails and really trying to mitigate some of the behavioral concerns that we're having now that these are becoming very popular and interconnected routes for both transportation and recreation. So I'm very excited about what Maha and Livable Streets team has been able to build with the network, literally, of all of the coalition building of the trails. And we're thinking of how we can scale that to statewide conversations.
Excellent. Scott and Amir?
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I just want to say, building upon the work that Livable Streets has been doing, envisioning and helping people understand, like, the network is coming more and more connected. We wrote a grant application to MassDOT the summer before last to help fund the guided ride series to really take people out on the infrastructure that exists and is becoming more and more interconnected. Think of the Clippership connector last summer, the North Washington Bridge and the harbor walk that goes beneath it, so you can avoid the road altogether. The extension of the Neponset River Greenway up, so folks can now avoid Freeport Street coming up from Tinian Beach. All of this stuff is happening in real time, and our guided ride series is really helping people build that knowledge and confidence, and just to see what's out there. And the overlap with transit as well, so you don't have to ride the whole way. So we're thrilled that years and years of effort have come into all of this stuff actually coming onto the ground and opening right now, as Galen mentioned, all the way out to Central Mass as well. So we're thrilled, and just wanted to share guidedrideseries.com. We may share more about that, but we do have some static and dynamic mapping resources on there that folks might find interesting.
Thanks, Scott. All right, I don't see any other hands raised for discussion. So let's move on to our next presenter. Thank you, Maha. That was really interesting. And obviously there are a ton of points of connection and intersection in the work that Livable Streets does. So again, even though there are forums for that, I think it's good for this forum to also see what those connections are in case we can make even more of them. So next we have, I believe, Sarah from the City of Chelsea, if you're ready to go.
Hi there. I'm wondering, am I able to share my screen for this portion if I have a presentation, or should I just go off my notes, whatever you prefer?
I think it's fine if you want to share your screen. Yeah.
Okay, great. Then I will do that. Oh, it says send report. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great. All right, so just wanted to give a little bit of a preview, high-level overview of an important plan that the City of Chelsea has been working on over the past year. But before we dive into this, I just want to give a little bit of background about us, about what the City of Chelsea is all about. So the City of Chelsea is the third most densely populated city in Massachusetts. We're also the smallest city in Massachusetts, covering just an area of 2.21 square miles. We are an environmental justice community located north of the city of Boston, and we're part of Suffolk County with a largely immigrant working class population. We're a very diverse municipality. We're home to thriving neighborhoods, lots of small businesses, multiple public transportation options, including the 111, which is one of the busiest bus routes in the MBTA system, and a whole range of cultural and civic resources. However, due to our city's geography and our orientation to the coast, and most importantly, legacy of industrialization, we've been disproportionately affected by environmental racism and injustice. However, Chelsea does exemplify resilience in a lot of ways. We continually rise from adversity through our unity, determination, and innovation. And this past year, we won the All-American City Award, and we are a 3-time winner of the All-American City Award, and we're really proud about that. All right, so now to get into one of the innovative approaches that we've taken to our transportation landscape in the past year. So I believe folks on this call know what Vision Zero is, given that we're in the transportation space. But just to explain what Vision Zero is, Vision Zero is an international street safety movement, and it's dedicated to eliminating fatalities and serious injuries on our roadways. Having a Vision Zero plan lays a clear path for us as a city to eliminate traffic-related fatalities and serious injuries to zero. And for the city of Chelsea, our plan is to reduce crashes by 30% by 2030, and then by 2040, eliminating them altogether to zero. So we are taking a pretty ambitious approach, but we really believe in setting our action plan into action. So yeah. And just an overview of the type of system that we're using to follow through on our Vision Zero plan. We use the SAFE system approach that the US DOT has developed. So the SAFE system approach is based off of 6 principles and 5 core elements, as you can see on this wheel. And it's a pretty holistic safety system. They say that death and serious injuries are unacceptable. Humans make mistakes. Humans are vulnerable. The design of transportation system, must act for the physical limits of human bodies that can withstand crashes. So that's recognizing the vulnerability aspect. It understands that responsibility is shared among government, industry, the public. Safety is proactive. So this system recognizes that safety measures should be implemented before crashes occur rather than reacting to when crashes occur. Oftentimes we see in the news like, oh, a crash happened here. Now we got to take initiative and fix it. Well, this approach, recognizes the measures beforehand as well. And redundancy is crucial. So to get into what the city has done for engagement, as you can see here, over the summer, we've done a ton of outreach with the community and gathering important community feedback from events like the Bike Rodeo, Meet the Machines, and Chelsea Day. This is a summary of our public survey. We got 165 English responses and 32 Spanish. And the main points from our public survey include that the majority of people have experienced crashes, whether observed or involved, and more than half of respondents know a Chelsea crash victim, and most were driving when the crash occurred. And these are some other results from our survey. I know that I have very limited time in presenting all this, so I'm just going to flash through the next slide on our engagement. I guess this is a pretty important piece about the top 3 factors in Chelsea that lead to injury classes. The first 2 are speeding vehicles and distracted driving. What's most important here is that the top 2 concerns that we found are related to driver behavior. One of the biggest outcomes from our safety action plan process was creating a priority investment network. A priority investment network is based on an analysis that includes crash data, context of the roadway and land use characteristics, and community input. And we do that by combining a high injury network map, a risk-based network map, and a community-based network map, as you can see here. So by combining all 3 maps, we get this priority investment network. And this helped us narrow the 49 miles of roadway in Chelsea to a list of 20 priority locations to make safety improvements on and reduce crashes. And those 20 locations are identified by the yellow yield signs and the red yield signs. The green yield signs represent projects that the city is already working on, but they just happen to be on the priority investment network. And following our process of doing the mapping and the public survey and our community engagement, we have developed a list of safety plan recommendations. And these recommendations are based off of 5 goals, and there's 33 recommendations that fall under each of these categories. Or 33 recommendations as a whole that fall under each of these categories. And this is just the table of some of the roadway design recommendations, with the table representing our primary recommendations, and on the side are our secondary recommendations under roadway design. And what's most important here is that we are currently, we've applied to MassDOT grants, including the recent LEAP grant that MassDOT just put out, and have applied for infrastructure and design funding for 3 of the top 5 safety locations. So we're making progress. We know that it's a long-term improvement, but we're absolutely doing our best to get started with our recommendations, knowing that our council unanimously approved of the plan back in November 2025. So that was a huge win for us to have council advocate, or to have council approve of our plan. So now what's coming up next is for council to approve of our Vision Zero policy in spring 2026. My time is probably up, so I'm just going to zip by the rest of the tables on policy recommendations, outreach, and overall our timeline. I know that was a lot in just a short amount of time that we had, but if you have any questions about any of the recommendations, I'm happy to go over any of them offline with anyone.
Thanks, Sarah. Caitlin?
I just wanted to say thank you to Maha. Sorry for not chatting before, but also to you as well. This is a really great framework and a great presentation, and I hope we'll be able to share it. And it looks like something that could be scaled up fairly easily. It's just so great work, and really thank you so much for sharing today.
Thank you.
Yeah, and this obviously very much aligns with the MPO's own safety action plan work and the work that we're continuing to develop with further funding from USDOT. So I'm sure that you've been in contact, Sarah, with with our safety action plan and Vision Zero team. But it's exciting that this work opens up like so many funding opportunities for interventions and projects, and it's great to see the municipalities in the region building on the regional plan that the MPO is working toward finalizing.
Thank you for making that thread. Thank you, Sean.
No problem. Does anyone else have any additional questions for Sarah before we move on to our third and final member presentation? Or doesn't need to be a presentation, but sharing. Okay. All right, so last but not least, we have, hang on, I lost my agenda here. We have Meg and or Sheila.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah,
Okay.
it's going to be both of us.
Okay.
So hi, my name is Meg. I'm from Mystic Valley Elder Services. So Mystic Valley, I'm going to give a little bit of an overview of Mystic Valley, and then I'm going to pass it over to Sheila because she oversees our transit programs. And so she's the best one to kind of talk about what we're doing here at Mystic Valley when it comes to transportation services. But for those of you who don't know, we serve 11 communities north of Boston. So we serve Chelsea, Everett, Malden, Medford, Melrose, North Reading, Revere, Stoneham, Wakefield, and Winthrop. And we offer all sorts of services for older adults and adults with disability to stay in the community, live independently, kind of be able to get the services that they want where they are. And one of those that we do is transportation. But other services that we offer are home care. We do nutritional services, so like Meals on Wheels, congregate meals, nutritional counseling. We do Shine or health benefit counseling, healthy aging programs, all sorts of things like that. But when we're looking at all of the services that we offer, transportation is a big part of what we need when we're talking to the older adults. Most of them are unable to access transportation on their own or don't understand all of the different types of transportation that's available out there. And that's where our transportation program really comes in. We offer, we do a big needs assessment every 4 years, and transportation always comes up as one of the biggest things that our older adults in the communities are looking for and looking to learn more about how to access, whether it's helping them to get access to different types of transportation or they don't know how to even go to any of it. So I'm going to pass it over to Sheila, and she's going to talk a little bit about what she does with her mobility management program, and then talk a little bit about our other program, which is called TRIP, about how we can support some of the older adults in our communities.
Thank you, Meg. My name is Sheila, Mystic Valley Elder Services Transportation Resource Coordinator. And I just want to talk a little bit about two programs Meg mentioned, Mobility Management Program and our TRIP Metro North program. So I'm going to start out with the Mobility Management Program. The main responsibility basically is that we collaborate with our care managers to provide medical transportation support to our consumers. And we do this by creating a transportation plan for our consumers, if that's needed, providing ideas for possible resources and options to consumers and non-consumers alike, since we have no vehicles of our own. We do research for possible new options on a very regular basis to see what's out there. And also we manage the scheduling process for actual trip requests as well for our consumers. Number-wise, we do on average, we coordinate about 100 unduplicated trips for our consumers per month. And again, approximately, we book about 400 one-way trips as well per month for our consumers. And a little bit about the vendors and services we actually use for these trips. First is Mass Health Mart, using the PT1 program they offer. The MBTA ride. SCM Door to Door is another one that's more local for focusing on Medford and Everett residents. They have a grant over at SCM Door to Door where residents book out 2 weeks and the transportation and med appointments would be free. The other one would be Megan Transportation. It's a similar program as SCM with a grant base, but they focus on servicing Malden residents. We do work with exceptions only with our two taxi companies, Malden Taxi and Suburban Coach. And also Cambridge Health Alliance Transportation. They do have shuttles and services that they bring people from their home to CHA locations for their appointments, medical appointments, and then back home as well. We also refer our consumers to call their Council on Aging, local senior centers within their city or town. To see if they can help them out, with transportation to local appointments, local getting errands done or grocery shopping, things like that. And as a note, all these services are shared rides, and provide share cars as well, except for the taxis. So the Trip Metro North program, it's basically for folks who are not able to drive, and can't take public transportation as well. It basically enables riders to ask a friend, neighbor, or in special cases, certain relatives. It can't be a child and it can't be a spouse, to take these folks to their appointments and so forth. There are no established routes, there are no geographic boundaries, things like that. The passengers and their drivers, they make their own travel arrangements in that case. And what the base of it is, the drivers are eligible then for a mileage reimbursement incentive. And there is an application process for this program, and it takes about approximately 3 weeks to see if it's approved or not for the driver in the program. So that's what I have right now. I'm going to pass it back to Meg, and thank you all.
Thanks, Sheila. Some programs that we're working on and we're trying to develop more of is seeing how we can look at other transportation companies to be able to help us. So we're not just looking at taxis, but is there a possibility with Uber Health or Lyft? And then also trying to find creative ways to work with our consumers who need more support when it comes to transportation. So besides just wheelchair cars, but the carry down services or someone to go with them to appointments. A lot of the consumers we work with are isolated and don't have people that are able to go places with them. And so how are we able to have that be part of our transportation program as well? So yeah, but we're open to any questions or anything as well.
Thanks. Caitlin?
Thank you. This is incredibly interesting. One question I would have is, so I'm assuming folks have access to the ride. So in terms of a supplement, do you know how many are actually accessing the ride and using it compared to this additional program, which is a great thing, but I'm just wondering.
Well, basically, we don't book the rides directly for the folks. Most do it with themselves or their family or friends. What we do for them is basically we explain how to apply for the ride, first of all, if they call in and they ask about that. We provide ride scholarships. If they're having a little bit of trouble financially, we can help them out possibly getting them over that little financial hump until they can do that on their own, pay for their own trips as well for the ride. And also we help the care managers in submitting MBTA ride medical necessity applications as well. That's our role with the ride.
The Trip Metro North program was really designed for people that couldn't take the ride. The ride wasn't working for them. They needed to go places the ride wasn't going to take them. And so it was helping to kind of make it so that people could travel to other places and that they didn't always feel like they were asking for favors every time they wanted to go out to lunch with someone. It doesn't just have to be medical appointments, they can go anywhere. And so when they're asking for someone to drive them someplace, they also can offer that they're going to reimburse them for their mileage. So it took away that I'm not going to go anywhere and reduce that social isolation that people were feeling. So yeah, it was like to complement the ride.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Does anyone else have any additional questions or discussion points for Mystic Valley Elder Services? Okay. So next we are moving on to a collection of presentations and discussion items about the MPO's annual work plan, which you'll hear referred to as the Unified Planning Work Program, or the UPWP. So first, to kick things off, I'm going to hand it over to Olivia, who is the program manager for the UPWP. Olivia? Actually, I don't even see Olivia in the meeting right now. I can do this introduction part unless somebody else was sent in Olivia's place to do it. Okay, I have no problem doing it. Can you go to the next slide, Megan? Right, so as I said, the Unified Planning Work Program is the annual work plan for the Boston Region MPO. It collects together all of the work that staff will undertake in a given federal fiscal year, and the federal fiscal year runs from October through September. It demonstrates how we're making progress toward achieving the goals in our long-range plan and ties the various planning work and initiatives to the goals in the long-range plan. We are a few months into the work of the current federal fiscal year, and we are starting the process of developing the work plan for federal fiscal year 27. Next slide. Oof, I don't have talking points for this. So about 2/3 of the work we do is MPO support and 3C planning, and that includes 13 MPO programs, which you can see listed here on the right. Today, we are going to be hearing from the program managers for the freight planning program and the active transportation program. Next slide, please, Megan. Oh, which is what I just said. Next slide. Okay, so first we're going to hear from the freight planning program manager, and then there's going to be a discussion after each of these two presentations to get advisory council members' input on the activities that are discussed and what the ideas are for where the program and the planning activity that's discussed could go next. So, Shravanti, take it away.
Thanks, Sean. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shravanti Gopalan Narayanan, and I'm the Freight Planning Program Manager at the MPO. I'm here today to share an overview of the MPO's Freight Planning Program and the Federal Fiscal Year 2026 Freight Action Plan. Next slide, please. I'll begin by sharing a very brief overview of our ongoing programmatic work under the Freight Planning Program. This year, one of our major efforts has been updating the critical urban and rural freight corridors at MassDOT's request. This effort ensures that priority freight corridors in our region are designated and eligible for National Highway Freight Program funds. We issued a call to action to our municipal partners and MassPort to gather input and are currently finalizing proposed updates in coordination with MassDOT. This will be presented to the MPO board in an upcoming MPO meeting, and the designated corridors will be finalized and move forward. Our other main focus for this year is the development of the Federal Fiscal Year 2026 Freight Action Plan, which will guide the MPO's freight planning priorities for the next few years. As part of this effort, we are convening a freight steering committee, a group of stakeholders and partners from state, regional, and local to help us shape the plan. I would like to briefly also highlight our recently completed UPWP discrete studies from the past two federal fiscal years. In 2025, my colleague Kyle Casiglio and I explored the use of cargo bikes for last mile deliveries. This study builds on the Federal Fiscal Year 2024 discrete study on decarbonization strategies in the freight and logistics sector, which identified cargo bikes as a recommended area for research. So this is an overview of some of our recent work and some of our ongoing programmatic work. If there are any questions, feel free to reach out to me after this meeting. But due to my short presentation, I just wanted to give an overview of these. Next slide, please. Galen, I see your comment in the chat. I'll definitely share a link to the study after my presentation. Thank you. So today's discussion focuses on the Freight Action Plan. The Freight Action Plan is intended to guide the MPO's freight planning activities and propose recommendations for the MPO and our partner agencies, highlighting identified regional needs, priorities, and help identify potential future freight-related study topics. The 2018-19 Federal Certification Review recommended that the MPO consider updating the Freight Action Plan every 4 years, and developing this plan is a key priority for this federal fiscal year. Next slide, please. The key focus areas for the Freight Action Plan update include understanding existing conditions, freight activity, and community impacts to identify major trends shaping freight movement in our region, engaging a wide range of freight stakeholders through the Freight Steering Committee, and broader outreach to ensure their perspectives inform the plan. Data exploration and analysis to better understand freight movement, including freight volumes and system utilization, and to document any data gaps and limitations. Identify regional freight challenges, needs, and priority areas for the MPO and our partners. And finally, based on the findings, developing planning and policy recommendations to guide the MPO and partner agencies in identifying short and long-term action items that support safe, efficient, and sustainable freight movement across the region. Next slide, please. With that, for today's presentation, I've put together 3 discussion questions to gather some initial insights from the group. So first, I would like to know what freight-related concerns or priorities you hear from your communities.
And then Shravanti, I'm happy for you to facilitate this discussion yourself and call on people.
Sounds good. Thank you, Sean. I'm happy if you want to do it too.
No, it's okay. It's totally fine if you do it.
Thank you. I see Galen.
Great. Thanks, Shravanti. I really appreciate this work. From the Mass Bike perspective, our biggest concern is when truck drivers are interfacing with vulnerable users on our roadways. So we've been working, and I'm hoping that this is part of the MPO's plan as well, to support safety features on trucks themselves, including side guards, convex mirrors, backup cameras, and more, because we know that those are proven safety devices that save lives when a crash is involved. And we were able to get legislation through on a state level where Commonwealth owned and leased vehicles were equipped with these safety standards, but that has not been extended to any private companies. And so I would hope that the MPO could support the find studies or find other arguments that would help either mandate or incentivize the trucking companies themselves to start to implement these safety features on the trucks. And secondly, I think along those lines is to do trainings for the operators, the truck drivers themselves, on how to navigate with vulnerable road users, specifically in urban environments where there's lots of mix of infrastructure. So if we're seeing new types of bike lanes pop up or interfaces where trail crossings happen, I would imagine many truck drivers, especially if they're not from the area, will be unfamiliar with how to safely navigate because they're used to, long haul highway driving. So what is being done from the MPO standpoint to help train these truck operators on how to, watch out for vulnerable road users? And just to underscore that, I don't know the percentages, but I think the last time we were counting, it's over 70% of the fatal crashes in the Boston region involving a cyclist are at a intersection where a truck driver turns right. And so I think this is a very severe and immediate need for how we're going to interface active, mobile, and vulnerable transportation in with freight. And the last thing I'll mention too is I think that there are many centers. I live in Boston, so I'm thinking of the 2 major centers of the Conley Terminal in South Boston and the Fruit Market out in Chelsea and Everett as 2 center hubs that if we wanted to do any interventions or pilots, that those would be 2 ripe targets for kind of trying to mobilize either an education campaign or a safety campaign.
Thank you so much. I think these are really helpful. And I just want to quickly add that we are definitely looking into, as part of literature review, we have been looking into some emerging technologies and policies and regulations related to that. So as part of that, safety equipment are one of the items that we are looking into. And I've also made a note of some of your other recommendations, Galen. So I really appreciate your thought. Thank you. Maha?
Hi. I think two things. One is that in this, I guess I don't entirely understand how you do these things. So some of this you might already be doing, but just flagging some stuff that we were working on through the summer. We were at .av, and some parts of .av are pretty narrow, and there's a huge amount of trucks passing around, especially in the summer when people are on the sidewalks. And I was wondering, even back then, is there a timing for freight, trucks that certain times they can go or not? Or is it because it felt very, they were speeding because there's so much traffic around that area that as soon as there's a green light, people rush. And I think that was something we noticed. And some of those areas are very walkable. And there's a lot of restaurants and sidewalk activity. So just wondering, have you guys studied any areas, or is there in your study, has something come up, especially in high dense urban areas, and in that I would, I guess, categorize as high dense area. The other thing is stakeholders, I feel schools and anywhere where older folks live, or communities where there's a walking disability or just a visual barrier, especially with kids who are because of their height and their vision and also the trucks being so big. Have you engaged with stakeholders in the vulnerable user, I guess a bucket where either safe routes to school, which I guess they have mapped out areas where there's clusters of schools and kids walk and stuff like that. But I also would imagine freight traffic already encompasses all of these factors, but just flagging that if that hasn't come up. And I feel with engagement stuff, it's always, happy to talk about engagement as a more how you guys are actually out in the community and doing it, and happy to support in that if that helps.
Thank you, Maha. Thank you for your comment and thoughts. So to answer some of those, so in terms of our vision for this particular update, we are looking into coming up with some action items. So we haven't really done any analysis of selective areas within our region. But one of our scope is to come up with future study ideas, and I think that is definitely a really nice idea. So maybe I'll make a note of maybe looking into certain areas, even Galen mentioned some potential areas to look into. So maybe I think that could be a good future study. So that's that's one thing that I wanted to reply. And I guess looking into stakeholder engagement, this year for the freight action plan, we are looking to pilot stakeholder engagement. So even though we've done stakeholder engagement through some of our existing channels of the MPO, this year we are trying to broaden that to broader public or rather freight stakeholders as part of the freight action plan. So I'm hoping to see how much we're able to engage in terms of that. But right now the focus is to get in touch with more freight stakeholders to get their perspectives on some of the issues and needs. And maybe as a follow-up to the freight action plan's action items, I think it would be a lot helpful for us to go into certain groups safe routes to school or other stakeholders. And I think also the active transportation program does a lot of work. So there might be some overlaps with some of the studies that we might do in the near future. So I think I definitely see some scope on expanding that outreach to, broader groups. But I hope this is helpful for you to get a sense of of like what we are looking into right now. And I'm happy to like get in touch with you if you have any recommendations for, stakeholder groups that we could get in touch with. Thank you. I don't see any hands up, so I'm gonna quickly check the chat. Thank you for dropping the link, Kyle. Can you state what and where the freight corridors are? So I can maybe quickly pull a link to the National Highway System. So basically the freight corridors are categorized into a few types. And in today's presentation, I highlighted the critical urban and freight corridors. So the link in the chat kind of like has all the designated freight corridors. And the reason why we update these corridors is to make sure that if there is change in freight movement, our priority corridors might change over time. And the last update for the critical and rural freight corridors were in 2017. So it's been a few years since the last update. So we are looking into some of the new corridors that could be added. I hope that is helpful. And Garen, I see your comment about map of freight routes and traffic heat map in the region. I'll definitely make a note of that. Thank you. I think I got some of the comments so far. And I think, Carl, I answered your question through like Maha's comment, but please feel to like ask if there's any like follow-up questions to that.
Yeah, and Shrivanti, we can provide you with the questions in the chat too, for you to be able to follow up with members and provide additional information. Thank you for the presentation though. I know there's like a lot more we could discuss about this, but I want to leave time for Kyle to discuss the active transportation plan and to leave some time for discussion around that. We can always bring any of these programs and these program activities back to the group for further input. And we can also send information out via email to solicit information from members and provide more of an opportunity to provide input on these discussion questions, like once you've really had time to think about them and bring them back to your organizations, back to your municipalities. So thank you very much, Shrivanti. And now, Kyle, if you're ready.
Sean.
Yeah, of course. Now, Kyle, if you're ready, I'll move on to you for your presentation on the active transportation program.
That was great. Thanks, Sean. Hello, everyone. My name is Kyle Casiglio. I'm a senior active mobility planner here at the MPO, and I manage our active transportation program. I'm going to get the next slide, please. So just to go over some of the things that we're working on. Last fiscal year, we launched our automated bicycle pedestrian count program. The MPO basically invested in 10 automated counters that can collect bicycle and pedestrian volumes 24/7, no matter the weather. So we've been working with communities across the region to deploy these and start getting some better information about where people are walking and biking and how things like seasonality or weather can make impacts on how people are moving through space. A big thing that we're working on right now as well is this regional needs and gap analysis. I'll get into more detail on this one. This is probably the biggest thing that we're working on at the moment, but we're looking to take a regional level view on where do we have gaps in our network for people walking and gaps in our network for people biking, trying to kind of categorize those into typologies and doing a little bit of prioritization so that we can direct our own funds and staff time into helping support those projects, and also as a resource for municipalities to identify areas where they can put resources that would make the biggest impact. And all of this work is being guided by our Active Transportation Steering Committee, which is a body that we formed in 2024. comprised of some of the people on this call, actually, but various municipalities, community-based organizations, some academic supports, and that body has been fantastic for not just, sharing resources and expertise and such, but really getting different perspectives on the work we're doing and where it can make the biggest impacts. Also happy to share some of the studies that we are currently working on or have worked on recently. Shravanti already talked about the cargo e-bikes study. That's something that we collaborated on and was a really cool intersection of our two programs. This current year, we're working on a pedestrian scale lighting study that's going to look at best practices for how to light our walkways appropriately for people who are walking, not just for illuminating the roadway for motor vehicles. And a study that we completed a couple years ago, and I'm really hoping we're going to get some more movement across the region on the implementation of the recommendations, is our parking and bike lane study, which looked at why bike lanes are being obstructed, who's doing it, and numerous interventions that can be taken to help prevent it. Because if you have a bike lane and it is obstructed, then you don't really have a bike lane. It's not something that's particularly usable. Could I get the next slide, please? So to kind of zoom in on that needs and gaps analysis that we're working on now, we last conducted one of these in 2014, and frankly, we just have way better availability of data now. So we're able to do a little bit more of a robust methodology, and we're able to, update for all of the amazing progress that's been made over the past 10 years. This was also something that Federal Highway in our most recent certification asked us to do, identified it as a need for the region. So we're really excited to be working on this. The process that we're taking, we looked at how similar agencies, MPOs, state DOTs have done analyses like this recently. And most of them have gone with a level of traffic stress analysis as the base for this. And we're doing that as well. So we've developed a methodology internally for how we measure level of traffic stress. We haven't completely finalized that yet. We're kind of working through what data do we have available, what tools do we have to actually implement that. And we plan on basically assessing every roadway in the region. So we'll be looking at segments with one type of methodology, and then we also really wanted to look at intersections as well. And this is something that most gap analyses in peer regions haven't gone into because it is difficult to assess an intersection. We do know all of the factors of what makes an intersection dangerous for people walking or biking, but it's the data availability that is really limiting there. So for example, something like, what are the turning radii? What is, the presence of something like a crosswalk even. We don't have that data. Where is right on red allowed or not allowed? These are all things that we would love to incorporate. And when we do our site-specific work, we're really hopeful that we're going to be able to start implementing a really bespoke methodology like that. For now, we're pretty much going to be sticking to things like speeds, traffic volumes, the distance that has to be crossed, exposure area, which is things that we do have confident data in. So as I said before, we're also looking to kind of categorize gaps into different typologies. And there's 4 that we've pretty much settled on that we're going to be trying to look at. One is a very straightforward infrastructure gap. You have 2 sections of bicycle facilities and there's something in the middle that is missing. So that one would be, pretty straightforward. And that's all that our old gap analyses have looked at, is where is the infrastructure gap. So some new ones that we want to bring in is, for example, a quality gap. And, maybe there is a what we call a conventional bike lane. So just, that side of the road, no buffer, no protection, no grade separation. But if that's a roadway where people are traveling 40 miles an hour and there's a lot of vehicles, then, that's a quality gap. That facility is not appropriate for that roadway. So we'll be looking at those. And we'll also be looking at what we call an access gap. So we have a set of what we call critical destinations, things like schools, grocery stores, major employment centers. And we're going to be looking at basically a destination based, can you get there comfortably? in a low stress way, walking or biking? And if not, how can we address a gap to get you there? And then finally, building off of some of the work that some of our colleagues have been doing around heat mitigation with active transportation, we're going to be looking at where do we have a potential heat gap? So this might be somewhere where the facilities seem appropriate for the roadway, but people aren't walking or biking there because of heat-related reasons. So you might have this really great sidewalk or this really great bike lane, but if it's in this exposed concrete desert type of area, people are going to be feeling that heat impact, right? So the MPO has developed a down to, I think it's 2 meter resolution UTCI, Universal Thermal Climate Index, which basically is a measurement that looks at how people are experiencing heat, taking into account things like, is it windy or not, or is it shady, is it not? And basically, we're going to be able to identify areas where we suspect people are not walking or biking because of that high heat. And so looking at a different set of recommendations and interventions to, support better practices around that. With the next slide, please. So I also brought some discussion questions that I would love to get the thoughts of this body on. Looking at our needs and gaps analysis, we're very interested in, what types of barriers do you see to the implementation of active transportation projects? So, we can identify gaps, but actually getting interventions is what we're focused on, right? We want to see these gaps addressed. So we want to be thinking ahead to what the barriers are for that. And then are there specific barriers to active transportation outside of like the network infrastructure that we're looking at right now that you feel would be helpful for us to study? And finally, the Active Transportation Steering Committee, which I mentioned before, we are approaching a new term where we're going to be trying to get some new voices, new perspectives into that conversation. And so I'd really love to hear what kinds of perspectives do you feel that we should be looking to include, areas where we may have had either blind spots or people that really have something valuable to bring to this discussion. So thank you everyone for the opportunity to present, and happy to take any questions, thoughts, feedback. I see Caitlin's hand.
I just a huge thank you. This is great. It's wonderful that you brought it to this community of organizations. I think there are many people who are working on these issues in this space, and I'm sure you can all coordinate and benefit from mutually beneficial conversations on this. And hopefully, from this meeting, people can reach out to you and be part of the process. But this is excellent. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'll put my email in the chat if anyone wants to reach out outside of this meeting. Please feel free.
Good to say. I urge folks to do that. I know there's a couple of people in particular I will be reaching out to just to say, I know you guys are doing great work on heat and other things. So if there's ways that folks can contribute to this, it'd be make it more robust. And it sounds like you're asking for some input. Is that right, Kyle?
Yeah, definitely. I haven't been directly involved in the heat work that's been going on, but happy to connect people if that's what they're most interested in. And yeah, definitely would love any input, feedback on these questions or anything active transportation related. Yeah, the A Better City folks.
Yeah, Kyle, thank you. And I'm very interested because the blocking of bike lanes, that report is great. And to hear you say, let's get this out there and socialize it, would love to be a partner in that. So thanks for your email. I'll reach out to see, what can we do? How can we help? We convene meetings all the time to talk about reports just like this. So we'd love to be a resource.
Fantastic. Looking forward to it. Yeah, James.
Thanks, Kyle. I also want to say thanks for all of this, and I'll email a couple other questions I have. I don't want to bog down the meeting, but I just want to ask about whether benches and the presence of benches are considered in any of that, or forgive my ignorance if that's off topic. topic for this, but
No, absolutely, it's relevant. I would say that mostly when we're thinking about benches, it's related to the heat work. We haven't really done any work around benches just as like a general transportation thing. I do know that that is a big issue, especially when it comes to accessibility and making sure that we have friendly pedestrian networks for elderly people, folks who are disabled and such. Um, so we've been looking at it from a heat perspective, but yeah, when we consider, a regional level active transportation plan, which is kind of a long-term goal of ours, that is definitely something we want to be thinking about as well. Galen?
Cool. Thanks, Kyle. Great work. I'll echo that. I would also add, along with heat, we talked about this at the last heat, no heat meeting too, but I think we can go beyond heat and focus on snow and ice and other climate change severities, flooding as well. So if there's a way to think about, I know we're focusing on heat as part of the no heat island effect, and I think that was a wonderful, I'm very happy to be part of that project. But it's also struck me that places that don't have good drainage have challenges, and of course, snow and ice is a major, major problem for getting around when, like you said, it's if and an intersection isn't as good, then the whole, or if a bike lane is blocked. Similarly, if there's a giant snow pile at a curb cut, you can't do it. So if there's a way to think about the next phase of mitigating the severities of climate change to really also focus on flooding and snow and ice.
Thanks, Galen. Yeah, it's an excellent point. We are very much a winter region, and I very much have to spend a lot of time talking to people and convincing them that, snow and winter shouldn't be a barrier to people walking and biking. So
yeah,
I agree with you. It would be great to be able to do some more research around that and put out some more materials.
And my small plug, just because I spent a week and a half in Montreal over the course of New Year's, is that they have municipal clearance of all of their all of their walkways and bikeways. And their bike share, Bixie Bike Share, has studded tires on all of their snow bikes. So active mobility does not have a season off up there, but a lot of it is because the infrastructure is supported by the municipal efforts.
Definitely. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole, but I'll echo that. I went to Whitehorse, Yukon territory this past summer and was blown away by their bicycle infrastructure. So if the land of the midnight sun can do biking year round, then I'm pretty sure we can do it as well.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for preaching the gospel.
Maha?
Yeah, second what Galen has to say about the winter stuff. I don't know if we can also address the wind in Boston, because I feel like sometimes it's not as cold, but when it's super windy, people often don't bike. And I don't know if there's a way of getting past that, but just wanted to flag that if that makes sense. One other thing, I don't know if it falls in the scope of this study, and if you already mentioned it, I'm sorry, I might have missed it in between. Is there like a overlay of bike share program and how like that is like for someone like me, I don't like own a bike. I usually take one of these like lifts or like other services where I can just rent a bike. So does that have any like impact on like I guess like active transportation, if there's like if just like the location of these like bike share programs have been optimal, and then this may be very far out, but also like let's say there is like an optimal route to get to places, but the bike share programs are expensive. That could also be like a hindrance to like using, I mean, I'm trying to understand, like, as someone who doesn't own a bike, wants to start biking, they have this route, they take the, let's say, get one of these bike share things, and then is it affordable for them to get to these places? Like, sometimes for me, I can see that the bus is actually cheaper for me to get to from one place to the other if I take a bike share. So anyways, I'm wondering if those things are also part of accessibility. because like affordability, I guess, also is a barrier to active transportation if people don't own bikes.
Yeah, it definitely is. I just linked a study in the chat. This technically wasn't conducted under the active transportation program, but our data teams were looking at the relationship between the Blue Bike system and the MBTA and how they interact. And the literature review for that gets at a lot of what you were talking about. It's not the focus of the study, but particularly things like barriers to Blue Bikes based on things like needing to have a credit or debit card, needing to be within safe distance of them, all of that. We do look at that. I'm not sure if we have one single like data layer of all of the all of the bike share systems in the region. We definitely have all the Blue Bike stations, but there are lots of like smaller suburban bike share programs that I don't know if we have all of that in one place, but that is something that would probably be useful and we should look at. So thank you. I hope that gets at your question. Not seeing any other hands, so I will pass it back to you, Sean. Thanks again for inviting me.
Of course, yeah. Kyle, I do want to ask one question. Sorry, I'm looking around my cat right now, who's sitting right in front of me. Do anyone wants to see him? There he is. Hi. But you mentioned the Active Transportation Steering Committee is approaching a new federal fiscal year. Are you actively soliciting new applicants for that? And if so, where could people go for more information? I know there's already a lot of overlap between the current membership and the advisory council, but there might be folks in the advisory council who have not engaged yet with the steering committee.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll post a link to the Active Transportation Program page on our website, which has information about the existing steering committee. If you would be interested in serving on it, you can reach out to me directly. We don't have like an application form or anything at this time. We're going to be doing the turnover in a staggered format. So we'll be looking to cycle in one group of new people for this June and then another group of new people this fall or winter in order to completely turn over the body. But yeah, we are absolutely looking for people who are interested. Right now, like I said, the body is pretty much made up of municipalities, community-based organizations, and a couple of academics. We're looking to broaden, our perspectives. Right now, all of our community-based organizations are primarily like very transportation first and foremost focused, and we're looking to branch out specifically for more perspectives around things like first responders, people with your advocates for people with disabilities or the elderly, looking for specific like community neighborhood types that can be representative of others in the region. So yeah, if you'd like to learn more about the body or you'd be interested in serving on it, we meet quarterly. Please reach out.
Thanks. And one final question or comment from Galen.
Cool. I'll be brief. I know we're running out of time. I want to suggest, Kyle, that in terms of reaching out for steering committee, that you also include youths in your outreach. And if there was a stipend involved, that might incentivize their participation. Obviously, kids under 16 can't drive, but even kids who are 16 and over, we want them to not drive. So what can we do to kind of make sure that youths are represented similarly to how you're thinking of having older adults? And just my little pitch there is the Youth Bike Summit that took place in Boston over the past couple of years might be a really good pool of candidates to choose from. That's my first pitch. My second pitch would be like, I would also, this is a generic comment. I'm wondering if there's the ability to have like a agreed upon set of goals for the active transportation that relate to mode shift. And always in my filter of these meetings with the MPO is what is our output, what's our outcome, and actually trying to get people away from driving, and is there a deterministic number that we can start to count? So this isn't necessarily a comment specifically for the steering committee, but I do think that active transportation is key for it. of how are we really incentivizing mode shift, how are we measuring it, and what are our goals, and then how can we translate that into literally every single transportation project that goes through the MPO's filter. And I think that's where the Active Transportation Steering Committee can be very influential if they have a metric that can be measured. So with that, I'll shut up, and thanks, Kyle.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I don't know if the MPO has a specific mode share target. It might, but I definitely don't want to speak for it in case I am wrong on that. But I definitely think that mode shift is a goal of the agency from leadership on down. So fully on board. And in terms of youth perspectives, my intro to planning was actually I was a civics teacher, and we worked on a Safe Routes to School project with the local planning department, and now I'm here. So absolutely believe in the voice of the youth and how that is a very important perspective.
I want to invite our executive director, Tegan, to provide some additional context to, I assume that's what it's called,
Yeah,
to
very
Galen's
brief.
question. Yeah.
Very brief. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Sorry to be off camera. But yeah, no, Galen, it's such a good point. And as Kyle said, the MPO has not really established a specific mode shift goal, and that has been called out and questioned in a few different ways. Because in essence, to accomplish many of the goals that are there, mode shift is part of that solution. So it's kind of an ongoing conversation that's come up several times with our board. And I think it's a good space to continue to think about and encourage our board to think about, because it's one thing to be working towards it. It's another thing to have explicit goals related to it. So I just want to admit that to you and encourage folks to continue that conversation.
Thank you, Tegan. We are just at time. So the only other item on our agenda besides adjournment is members' items. And in lieu of members bringing any items up right now, I would ask that you follow up with us via email with Gia. And we can include those in the follow-up email we send after this, if that's okay with everybody. Technically, any member can overrule me, but that is my ask for right now, just to stay on time. Okay, I left 3 seconds for dissent and nobody did. I think that's adequate. Okay, so that wraps up our January meeting. With that, can I please get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Kyle. And can I please get a second?
Second.
All right, great. Thank you. That concludes the meeting. Everybody have a great rest of your afternoon, and we will see you in February.